Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're capturing the absolute essentials of Robert Kiyosaki's groundbreaking book in 8 minutes or less. We're going to reveal exactly why traditional schooling so often fails to create true wealth, and why the kids getting straight A's aren't necessarily the ones who end up with the most financial freedom. Take a look at this brilliant quote from Albert Einstein. It perfectly sets up our whole premise today. Everyone has a unique genius, right? But schools? Well, they often completely misjudge and mistrain true financial genius by forcing absolutely everyone into the exact same academic mold. Instead of teaching us about money or how to build businesses, they drill this single mantra into our heads. Just get good grades so you can get a safe, secure job. All right, so here's our roadmap to taking control of your financial education. First, we'll look at the educational crisis. Then, we'll break down the cash flow quadrant. After that, the 3 types of income, followed by the unfair advantages, and finally, a weakening your financial genius. Okay, part 1, the educational crisis. Let's start right at the root of the problem. The reality of the working world is just wildly different from the classroom. Our educational system is fundamentally geared to train A students to be academics. Think the specialists, the doctors, the lawyers, those straight A scholars. And it trains B students to be bureaucrats, usually the managers and government workers. But here's the kicker. Schools completely overlook the C students. According to the source material, it's actually these C students who so often become capitalists. They're the ones following an entrepreneurial path, carrying the torch of capitalism, and literally creating the jobs that the A and B students are applying for. I mean, just think about Thomas Edison, Walt Disney, or Steve Jobs. None of them fit that traditional academic mold, yet their entrepreneurial genius completely changed the world. So, what's the crucial takeaway here? It's this massive disconnect between what schools teach and what entrepreneurs actually need to survive. Schools preach specialization. They preach finding job security. Basically, they teach you how to be an employee who climbs a corporate ladder. But true entrepreneurs? They need the exact opposite. They require generalist skills to understand the whole big picture of a business, from leadership to finance to marketing, and they prioritize ultimate financial freedom over the sheer illusion of job security. They don't just want to climb the ladder, right? They want to literally own the ladder. Moving on to part 2, the cash flow quadrant. Let's look at how money is actually made. This core model breaks things down into 4 specific areas. On the left side, you've got the E for employee and S for self-employed. On the right, you've got B for business owner and I for investor. Now, over in the E and S quadrants, which, by the way, is exactly where traditional schools train you to be, you're essentially trading your time and selling your labor for money. But hop over to the B and I quadrants, and well, this is where the capitalists live. They don't sell their labor. Instead, they use property, systems, and capital to generate wealth for themselves. Now, we really have to distinguish between managerial capitalists, who are often just highly paid CEOs sitting in that E quadrant, and true capitalists, who are the actual entrepreneurs in the B and I quadrants. You see, a managerial capitalist might make millions of dollars, sure, but they're still just an employee. They aren't taking any personal financial risk. If the company goes under, they just go out and find another job. True capitalists, on the other hand, are the ones who start from scratch. They hold a massive stake in the businesses they build, and they take the real hard financial risks to bring new innovations and jobs into the world. Which brings us to part 3, 3 types of income. Let's see how different classes actually earn their money. So while the poor generally work for highly taxed ordinary income and the middle class relies pretty heavily on portfolio income, the truly rich focus entirely on generating passive income. Let's break that down. Ordinary income is the standard paycheck you get from a job, and it gets hit the hardest by taxes. Portfolio income includes capital gains from things like the stock market or a 401k. But the ultimate goal of a capitalist, that's passive income. This is cash flow from assets like real estate or business operations that pays you constantly. It pays you whether you physically roll out of bed and go to work that day or not. True financial education is all about teaching you how to transform that ordinary income into passive income. All right, part 4, the unfair advantages. We're diving into the secrets behind taxes and debt. Looking completely impartially at this financial case study from the 2012 election, we can see a really objective example of how the tax code treats these different quadrants. Ordinary income is just taxed at a higher percentage than massive portfolio and passive income. During that campaign, it was disclosed that President Obama paid 20.5% in taxes on roughly $3 million of income, while Mitt Romney paid 14% on $21 million.
Now, rather than getting angry about this, a financially educated person steps back and asks how. The structural reality here is that the tax code actively offers huge incentives to those in the B&I quadrants, the people who provide jobs, build affordable housing, and invest real capital back into the economy.
And there's another massive unfair advantage, and it comes down to how you view debt. Schools teach us to avoid all debt, right? Pay off your credit cards, live below your means. But capitalists understand the stark contrast between bad debt that drains your pockets and good debt, which is using other people's money to acquire cash-flowing assets. If you use a credit card to buy a fancy new TV, yeah, that's bad debt. But if you use a bank loan to buy an apartment building that literally pays for its own mortgage and puts passive cash flow in your pocket every single month, that debt is actually making you rich.
Finally, part 5, Awakening Financial Genius. How do we empower ourselves and the next generation?
By acquiring assets and building strong businesses in the B&I quadrants, you achieve the ultimate goal of the C student. You essentially start acting like the Federal Reserve, effectively printing your own money. Think about it. When entrepreneurs take a company public, they're legally printing shares of stock. When you acquire cash-flowing real estate using other people's money, you're generating your own endless cash flow. You're no longer dependent on a boss deciding to give you a raise. You are building true, lasting wealth entirely on your own terms. So I want to leave you with this final crucial thought. Will you rely on a system that is literally designed to train employees, or will you awaken your own financial genius? It is entirely up to you to take control of your financial education. Explore the other side of the coin, really understand those cash flow quadrants, and learn the true language of money. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to N8 Minutes and never miss what matters.